Welcome to a moment with Vivacious. I tell you guys, I am so excited today. We have men on rising. Did I say correctly?
Young men rising.
Young men rising. But when y'all hear about this, this is the answer. And this is the things that we cry about to change. And before we get started, I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves and they can talk about what they do and which part in Young Men Rising they play. You want to start, Mr. Wyatt?
My name is Jeffrey Wyatt. I'm a mentor at Young Men Rising. I'm one of the co-founders of Young Men Rising.
Okay.
Chris Platt. I'm a mentor for Young Men Rising.
I'm Dwayne Ward, and I'm a mentor of Young Men Rising, also co-founder of Young Men Rising.
So let's tell everybody. Can we tell everybody what is, I want them to be as excited as I am. What is Young Men Rising?
Well, Young Men Rising is a lunch buddy program that we started in the schools, where we meet with these young men during their lunch period, when they have their lunch break, and we go in and we sit down with them and have lunch with them and break bread with them and try to get into what they're into, whatever they're thinking about, what their goals are and things of that nature. And we try to figure out how to assist them in their goals and intentions. And we try to do that along with other things. Jeff?
As if a young man would come to us and tell us that he wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer. First thing I would ask him, do you know anybody that is a doctor or a lawyer? Or can he give me any history? I challenge him towards that. And what we would try to do is get in touch with a doctor or lawyer that looks like him rather than on TV. But if we get in touch with a doctor or lawyer, try to get them to come in during lunch time, that we have them in a classroom setting to talk to the young men about becoming a doctor or lawyer. What does it take? The history of it, the trials and tribulations of it, not only the glory of it, but how do you become one? And it encouraged them. Because if a young man look at TV or the media, he only see men of color as athletes or entertainers. We're more than that.
Or gangsters.
Our gangsters. You know, those guys, because that's what they see, that's what they hear, and that's what they see in their family. But when they do see outside on shows where they see more the professional men, and it's not all about money. You know, when we speak to these young men, I ask them about their future. I talk to them as in an order: your wife, your kids. I don't say your kids and your girlfriend. I say your wife and your girlfriend. They ask questions from there, and that's how it goes.
That's exciting to me, and I want to say two things. And that is lunch and eating together is such a spiritual thing. So what made y'all decide, let's do it lunch?
That's the most relaxed time that they have besides recess. And they talk more. You know, they sharing food with each other. They sharing food with us. And we go in at lunchtime. Sometimes we eat with them with the same food they have. And this is what I've learned. When you speak to a young man, I come down to his level and bring him up to mine. Because if I come in at his level, at my level, and look at him, it's hard to communicate with him. So I go down to his level where I've been, communicate with him, bring him up to mine. And it's a lot of questions. I ask most of these young men questions, and they give me great answers. They'll talk all day. If you was to ask them what's going on with them, they'll tell it. And they tell you they don't get no one to ask them questions.
And sometimes you have some young men who are introverts. They shy away from communication. You know, they don't want to talk.
Some old men too.
Yeah, and we tend to break them down, so to speak, in the way we engage them, and loosen them up, and they come out of that shell and they start to talking, which is amazing because sometimes it's hard to get a kid to talk about what's bothering him, you know, especially a kid that's having issues in school and he's always in trouble, and and it's hard for him to articulate what's going on with him. So we sit down with him and we just let him break down himself, because we're listening to him. That's what he wants. That's what they need, to be heard. So we give them that opportunity. We lend them the ear, and we hear what's going on with them, and we get the conversation going, and that's how we get it into camaraderie with them. We get them to understand that we are not there to harm or hurt them. We're there to encourage and build them up and guide them. We made a promise to these kids that when we come into their lives, we're going to stay there until they go to high school, until they graduate high school. So if we meet them in elementary school, no matter what school they go into, we go in there with them. And we've just been granted a situation in Henry County where we can actually do that. It's no more a dream of ours. We have now access to be able to do that.
I don't have the power, but the person that I know who have the power can surely.
Get us in touch with
Yes, absolutely.
That's what we do.
Absolutely. And to be honest, right here, I've been since Barbara told me about this, and everybody knows I love Barbara. And thank God for her. Told me about y'all and told me a little bit about y'all. I've been waiting. I've been waiting because I feel like we won't have a generation until we return. You know, people say, oh, back from slavery, all of the things that's happening negative in our communities and our boys going negative ways happened from slavery. I say that's not true. Because if it was from slavery, it would have happened when I was young. I was closer to slavery than the young boys now. It has occurred because family and foundation and training and teaching. We've lost our culture. You know, when Daddy used to walk in the house, everybody got straight. And we missed that. Another thing as a woman I'm going to say is that we have had to take such a masculine role that in order for it to work again, we're going to have to learn how to be women again. We're going to have to learn how to be feminine again. So to have you guys come up is not an incident, is not by accident. It's the answer to mothers' prayers. And some mothers were praying for you and didn't even know they were praying for you. It's an answer. And one thing that excites me is when we talk about communication. Because men in general don't communicate.
Yeah, when you say men in general, you're speaking of grown men?
I'm speaking of males. I should say males.
Okay, now I tell you, my opinion of that
Mm-hmm.
is because a lot of grown men
Mm-hmm.
are not transparent of their issues. We're not transparent because our issues, because we don't want our issues to be brought back upon us. It hurts. If I go outside and I trip and fall and I scrape my leg, I'm gonna come in, put something on it, go on about my business. If my wife don't see it, I don't say nothing. That's who we are as men. But when you get a man that's been told not to cry, not to hurt, don't whine, that creates from a young male, as a young boy, as he grow older, he turns into a monster because he never get to show his emotions. Then when he do show his emotion, he explodes, and that gets him in trouble. Then when the young black man gets in trouble, a young brown man gets in trouble, his anger and his madness is documented and it's kept on a file to the next time that he do it, then he got to go do jail time. But we're taught that in the house. Boy, don't cry. You okay? Suck up them tears. Go finish what you're doing. Instead of saying, Daddy, it hurts. Uncle, it hurts. Big brother, it hurts. Granddaddy, it hurts. we're taught not to. And if we start having more men that are nourishing to the younger man, we'll know how to take care of our families more.
Exactly. I'm in 100% agreement with that. Exactly.
And that's the bottom line. So we go to these young men, we nourish them. We give them a chance to talk about what hurts them.
What hurts, right?
Because once we gain their trust, they open up and start doing more talking. And then we have a good time with them then. We laugh and joke about everything.
There is no better joy than to witness the turnaround in a kid from when you first meet him and he's one way. And a week later, when you see that kid, he's a whole other kid. He just opens up. And that's the thing that we're trying to do, is to get these kids to be not just looking out for themselves, but looking out for each other in school. So that way, you know, in these schools today, you got these kids fighting for no reason. They fight each other for, you stepped on my shoe, or whatever, you know. And what we try to encourage is brotherly love. This is your brother. Especially if you're in Young Men Rising, if you become a part of our group, you're automatically a family. You're a member of something positive. It kind of models what they would call street gang. You know, you have gangs in the street, and they have different ways of getting in, and it's all negative because you got to do something really bad to gain access. We do the total opposite. You don't have to do anything but be yourself and be true to who you are and grow in the admiration of your peers. Because if one is hurting and he's in your group, you're hurting too. So you try to take care of each other. You want to, if you know math and he don't know math and he's struggling with math, you're going to help him. You're going to tutor him. He's going to come up to your level because you're going to show him how to do it. And this way, when the grades come up in the classroom, everybody grades come up because you know how to show him. So we try to teach them to take care of each other, you know, and being a part of Young Men Rising, they love being a part of this group. They will put on their shirts and their sweaters, t-shirts, or whatever when they come. You've seen the pictures. You got the pictures on the intro. It's just like
they look forward to seeing us. And one thing I don't want to do is disappoint.
Disappointing.
I mean, they really, the days that we're supposed to be at school, they always ask for extra days. Always. Can you come back this day? Will you be able to do this day? Well, like right now we have once a week. But if you need me, you get in touch with your teacher, your counselor, your principal, and they call me, and I'll be back that next day.
And I thought once a week was like, oh wow, astonishing. But that's even more.
Well, we take it to the next level, because that's our passion. That's what we about. And if they need us, we are going to them. No matter if it's food insecurity, clothing insecurity, or whatever it is that they are lacking, there's no reason for that. Even if mom or dad is struggling at home, there's no reason for that child to be lacking. We're going to find a way to take care of that. But our issue is the parents got to learn how to be receptive and acceptive of the gift that God has given them. Because some parents be like, I don't need that, and he don't need that. Yeah, he do. And he don't feel good because he don't have it. That's why you have to nurture your children properly. You know, if you don't give them the proper things they need, the bare necessity they should have at home and not lack that. Socks, shoes, just the bare necessity, the parents should be taking care of that. They should do that. And sometimes it's a struggle.
I'm sorry.
Mothers upset with the ex. Well, they upset with the child because of the ex. I personally went through that situation, but I had to. When I went through it, I didn't realize I was going through it until I became a young man. But to me, I had to understand that that mothers gets upset with that ex, that male or that daddy, and they take it out on a child, but then the child don't understand why he's being abused or accepting this. I don't know how the other way to say it, the abuse from his mother, because she's upset with the father. And if he do have a stepdaddy, she's still upset with the father or want the father in. And every time she look at her son, she see his daddy.
See him.
And that has a little fella, he's all twisted. You know, they come to school and a lot of them mumbles. So, you know, you stay at him until he break his mumble. Then when he do come out of his shell, he come out of his shell angry. Because he angry at somebody because he feel that what's happening to him is not right. And the hardest part, I say, for me is once I get that week to 2 weeks past, and I ask them like, hey man, how your parents doing? Oh, they okay. How your mama? Oh, she okay. How your dad? I don't get to see my dad. And as we talk to them, they open up about their family situations. That's with me where I know I can help more to get him right. Because if his house ain't right, he ain't right in school. I don't care what the teacher, teacher, principal, counselor do. If he ain't right in that house, he's not gonna be right in school. Because you can't get that kid from 6 o'clock to 6 in the morning, 12 hours, to go to that school to be there 10. Because from that school bus, back to school bus, it total about 10 hours. And he know he get out of that school, that might be his last meal. That might be his last protection for the next 12 hours till he get back in that school again at 7:30. These kids go through this. And they mumble this to us. They don't want to tell it, so they mumble. Then we got to figure out what are they saying. But we got to be consistent and able to listen. That's why I say I have no problem going down to the level of that young man to listen to him. Hey man, I was 10 years old at one time. I did this when I was 10. I tell them sometimes I didn't have a haircut fresh as yours. I didn't have them kind of nice fresh shoes. They giggle a little bit, make them feel good about themselves. Then they'll start telling me. And I have to tell them my story to get their story. But if his house ain't right, he's not right in that school. Happy kids in that school, happy at the house. We get that from the young ladies. They're so angry. They are so angry. It intimidates the young men that these young ladies in these elementary schools, grammar schools, and middle schools are so vicious and aggressive to these young men. I had a young man tell me, she pulled my ponytail. I said, well, maybe she like you. He said, no, man, that young lady hates me. She bullying me. Now, this young man knows martial arts, but he's not gonna be aggressive with this young lady. But he's being bullied by this young lady.
I hope she don't push him to that point because boys are human too.
Only thing he did,
He's a smart kid.
He's smart.
He's
He
very
won't.
smart.
He's been raised by his father.
Yeah.
He's not being raised by his mother. He's raised by his father. Talk about his dad all the time. Me and my dad, me and my dad, me and my dad. Now his mother's in the house, but his dad is the nourisher. He's the one that nourished him. And I'm the man I am today because my father was the nourisher. My mother wasn't, it was my dad. And that made a difference in me. And which I tell these young men, it's hard to tell men in the world that your father, I say, hey man, my dad did what my mom didn't do. It's taboo, especially among the black men. I say 98% of black men is not gonna, they don't talk super cool about their daddies without talking super cool about their mama first. I do. And it's taboo in my community everywhere I go. So when I tell the young men, their eyes buck. Unless I find one to tell me that his daddy is the nourishing one and he learns better because he's taught them. You can put a suit on a young man, a mother can, and he can stroll. I put a dress on a young lady, I can't teach her how to walk in heels, how to, what y'all call it, sashay, your hair and all that. I can't teach her how to do that. Like a woman can't teach that young man how to put that suit on and do his thing. Like a man can tell her. A man has to tell a young man how to have swag. And a woman got to tell a young lady how to have swag too.
I so understand the power of that statement because my mom died when I was young and my dad raised me. So, needless to say, I was very masculine. I had to learn. I had a lot of problems in relationships when I was younger because I was so masculine.
See, that goes to the point that I was making about
On the flip.
being right. She's on the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing about being brought up by the opposite sex
He's feminine.
and not being able to put into you what you need. See, you needed mother wit put into you, and to show you how to be more ladylike, and not that you're not a woman, you're a woman 100%, but growing up, you were more masculine. You know, I have a niece who was in the Air Force. She's just like her brother. She's more masculine than her brother. And I love her to death because she is who she is. Not trained by her mama. She trained by the military. She went in the military to find herself, so to speak. And she found who she wanted to be. And she's grown to that woman. But she is more masculine because of where she's at than if she wasn't in the military. If she wasn't in the military, she'd probably be different. She'd probably be more ladylike, you know, but she's more roughhouse, you know. And I love her for it. I love her for being who she is.
Well, maybe she was a tomboy.
She was a tomboy. She grew up as a tomboy.
Because
Tomboys are cool.
Because I
I'm
have
tomboy.
friends that's military, but some of them are masculine, but they were masculine before
They
they
went
went.
in. Right.
Mhm.
She was a tomgirl before she went in.
Mm-hmm.
But in being in the military kind of showed her more so her abilities and what she was able to do, and being more masculine, so be it. It brought her out. It brought the inside of who she was inside to the forefront, and she's the best to me. I love her to death. She could be my little brother, cause I love her that much. That's how much I love her, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all in what you get early in life. I want to say when you're 5 years old, that's the time to train your child. That's the time to get your child to know who they are and raise them up. Don't let them go, just let them go and smile at them and laugh with them because they're doing funny things. No, it's time to train that child early on. So that child starts to mature and know their place and who they are. As they get older, each year, each step, they develop. And once they develop, now you have an opportunity for them to do the things that they want to do in life. They can make the choices when they get older. When they get older in life, they can decide what they want to do with their life, be who they want to be in life. But as a parent, it's your job to raise that child as it came into the world, to be that person. That's my thing. That's my belief. So I might be wrong, but in my heart, that's who God intended for us to be as parents, to raise our children as they came into the world, to be what they're supposed to be.
I'm really excited that I didn't get to plan this interview because I just think it's going everywhere. So now I have two things. I'm gonna say two things again because he's gonna help me remember if I just say one. I won't remember the second. First thing is that I get a lot of flack because I'm male female role. You know, but then that's my generation.
So why do you say male female role?
Well, because that's leading to my question. Because it appears that in this time, it's almost like male and female is being stripped. That's how I feel. Like, oh no, I said, oh, we can cook. Oh no, we don't want that image. You know, I was in with a group of women. We don't want that image. We don't want that image. And it's like the male role and the female role, as I know it, is almost dissipating.
It's
in society.
changing.
No.
Yeah.
It's changing.
Well, wait. That's one.
Okay.
You're gonna get to answer that one. And the second one is that as that happens, how do you feel your place is as young men rising? And I just want to talk about this. I mean, I just want to say it so people can hear and understand. Young men rising, like we have so many young girls that's male. Of course, they can't join Young Men Rising. They fighting to join the football team. But anyway, as the roles appear to dissipate, as people, you know, want to be everything.
For gender equality.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. It's gender equality.
And that's
And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's
There's
cool.
nothing wrong with that. The thing that we try to understand is that when you have a role, when you establish yourself and have a role, you know what your role is. If you allow yourself to be pulled away from that because of society's whims, that's a situation that you have to address yourself in your heart, in your mind. Do you want to do this? Because I believe like this here. Women are caregivers. They take care of home. They do that. They do all of that. They work. My wife works home and outside the home. She takes care of this place like nobody else can. And she works a job. The thing that I'm talking about is the role that you play as a man. You do what men do. You know, some things. Some men are mechanically inclined, some aren't. Some have tendencies for electricity like he does. Some don't. Some are good carpenters, some aren't. Women the same way. They can do the same thing that men do, but that doesn't take away who they are. They're still women, and men are still men. We can do the same thing. I can cook like nobody else. Women can cook like nobody else. We do the same things. We're just the opposite side of the coin. And that's how we were created. God made us male and female. He didn't say we couldn't do the same things. We couldn't work the same jobs. We couldn't learn the same lessons. He didn't say that. He just made us there to be partners. We are to be mates. He brought Eve to Adam so Adam wouldn't be alone. But Eve was a female to bear children. So the whole thing is our human nature is no different just because we're male and female. We're the same people. We just have different genetic makeups. God made us different from each other. But we live in the same world. We have the same opportunities to do the same things. That's why I love my niece so much, because she's in a man's world out there with the airplanes, flying them, going out there doing a thing, you know, and I just bless her for it because she knows who she is. She's still a beautiful woman. So, you know, the thing that correlates the most is the fact that we are created into the human race by God to be who we are, male and female. Everything else comes in the bowl. Everything else comes in the bowl. The only thing that's separate in that bowl, that's different in that bowl, is us, male and female. Everything else in that bowl goes together.
You want to say something?
No.
All right. Now, everybody don't have to agree, okay? So, with that being said, let me ask you this. Well, what's the difference between them?
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Between what now?
So,
Between
a
a male
male
and
and a female.
You want to answer that?
I'm gonna answer that one. This might go back until your last statement.
Yeah, that's why it's coming. The question coming from there, so
Okay.
that's okay.
I believe, like I tell the young men, it's an order to everything. Like I tell them, when they talk about, I ask them, what you gonna do when you become a grown man? Not an adult. So adult is age. Grown man is your responsibilities and what you do. And a lot of grown men today get adulthood and grown manhood mixed up. Oh, he 25 years old, he grown. I said, no, he ain't. Why you say he ain't grown? Because he's 25 years old, he stayed with his parents. He's an adult. He's not grown. So when I ask these young men, what are you gonna do when you become a grown man and in your career? They say, well, I'm gonna have a wife and 10 kids. I'm gonna have 2 or 3 girlfriends and no kids. And I tell them it's an order to that. And nature and God has an order. When you get out that order, things mess up, things tear up. We all done tore up things, tore up relationships. We got out of order. I had to learn that by my mistakes and me getting beat up by the world, beat up by society, my relatives, my family, my friends, my associates, because I got out of order. And when I started putting myself in order, wasn't nobody allowed to beat me up because I stayed in order. To me, the order for a young man is to find him a girlfriend that he really likes and spend time with her. He want to marry her, you marry her. Then you get a family from there. Mr. Jeff, why? I say that's the order. And when I mention that to grown men or to adult men, they question that. Because a lot of grown men, by their responsibilities, a lot of adult men, by their age, don't get it. Some do, some don't. That won't. It's not, to me, that female is going to do what females do. It's in your natural character. What's in your genes, what you do is what you're going to do. That young baby, girl, I know a lot of people don't. I found out that when that little baby girl born, her kids are already in her. She had to mature to be able to have her kids. God did that, not man. When that little boy, when he get of age without injuries, he can be a father. But that don't mean he a daddy. I asked the little kids what's the difference between a daddy and a father. Last week, 2 or 3 of them said, daddy the one that love us and spend time with us. Love on us and spend time. That's a daddy. A father the one that got his name on the birth certificate. I asked these kids, these 2 gentlemen, I said, what's a birth certificate? Oh, that's where your mom and your dad. I said, your dad, no, your father put his name down.
Well, do you know 75% of black kids in urban areas do not have a male listed on their birth certificate? That took me to that took me to the next place because I want to talk about identity.
But they know. And not one of them young men said, my birth certificate don't have my father's name on it. It might have been a couple of them that didn't have it, but he didn't say it out loud.
Right.
But they know.
They know.
These young
men
know a lot.
They know what's on the birth
They
certificate.
just don't tell from shame in front of their friends.
See, and that's why we try to engage them to get them talking. See, in order to mature, you have to be engaged in a mature situation. something that's going to take you to another level of thinking. And when you do that, that's when you start to grow as a young man, because your mind done opened up to something else. And that's when you start to wonder about stuff. And that's how you mature and grow. So
Make
this
them
is the
uncomfortable.
thing. Yeah, that's it. They be uncomfortable with it, and once you explain it to them and they look at it and figure it out, they're not uncomfortable with it anymore.
They
Now they can
grow.
move up. Now they can step up to the next level. And that's what we do with them on a weekly basis. We elevate them to the next level. Each challenge we give them is every week. It's a different challenge. We teach them how to bank and how to do interest rates and how to save coins and just things of that nature. Even when you yourself may have difficulty doing that, you know the principle. Teach the principle. Teach them the principle so they can make their own decisions on how to do it. Because that's the key to growing. If you have the resources to show you how to do something, you can do whatever it is you want to do. If you got the plans laid out, you can go. And that's what we try to do. Get them in their head where they want to go and give them the plan. Give them the plan. Show them the plan. Let them go with it.
Honesty. I tell those young men, I have to tell them the truth, good or bad. That's why I give them my story. I tell them I'm messed up. I tell them, I say I'm military retired, I done got in trouble, I done been married. I'm in my third marriage, and I've messed up on both of them, my last two. It's funny, I always tell, to break the ice with the guys when I first meet them, I always tell them that Rihanna's my girlfriend. And they laugh, man, I'm gonna get you a girlfriend from you, because Rihanna likes me, not you. And that's just enough to laugh. Rihanna don't even know who I am. I know she don't. And they know too, but we get to laugh. And once we laugh with that, it opens them up. Because I tell you, a lot of young men, they're intimidated by the male teachers, the male teachers, the male counselor, male principal. They don't know how to joke with them. But once these young men see us laughing and joking at them, they turn around and do it with us. They break that ice. They start to talk. They talk about so much.
And I'm glad to hear that, because like I said, working in the jail, I saw a lot of young black men get in trouble and maybe even pick up charges because their personality and their fun side of life, that's their personality, to laugh and joke
That's
and
who
take
they are.
life. Yes, exactly. And I've seen so many black men and young black boys get in trouble because of that. So a lot of things, I hope you don't take this interview for granted, because it's being advertised and people are going to see it, and it's going to make them deal with their
Man, you
own
can take it to the
feelings.
White House. I don't care.
Okay. It's
That'll
going to
help
help
too.
people deal with themselves, because we were talking about identity in a previous in a previous interview. The conversation came up and we talked about identity and teaching our children who they are. But such a large portion of parents having kids today have become so overtaken by the thoughts. People, you can't think what you want. If everybody's wearing green and you sitting on one blue, then you're ostracized. And identity, it was a big thing. When I was coming up, name was a big thing. My aunt used to say, show me a company and I tell you who you are. And you couldn't be friends with someone without bringing them home before your family. And one of the first questions they said is, who's your people?
Yeah, they do that now.
Who's your people?
They
I'm
do
going
that.
somewhere with
They
this.
do that now.
I'm going somewhere with this. Who's your people? And that was important You know, I knew an older guy who said he got in some trouble, and he said, "Oh, I messed up. I messed up my daddy's name. My daddy didn't let us take his name. You know, my daddy took that seriously, and I messed up my daddy's name. I did that, and the world knows. You know, he was well known. He was a public figure, so everybody knows that I did that, and I messed up my daddy's name." I said, "Well, the thing not to do is to bury your head, because we don't care about that. We need what you need to give us. You can't bury that. If you bury your head, then you're burying us. Come and fix your daddy's name." And I said that about birth certificates because there's a large part of our population that don't have their name, their dad's name. Like my family name means the world to me. And I've been married twice. And both times I took my daddy's name back. Because of our history and because it's who I am. But I felt like, this is my personal feelings, when I joined with that man, I took his name. But that was severed. So this is who I am. And I want to talk about being identified in the name, in the culture of that family is about disappearing. I feel like, but you don't. So let's hear from you first.
Oh no, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my mom and dad is from Atlanta. My name Wyatt. A lot of people. I just talked to an older gentleman today. I didn't cover him since 87 years old, 85 years old, and his wife was a Wyatt. His grandmother was a Wyatt. That really surprised me. It's two different clans of Wyatts. So my name, I'm very proud of it. Society, when you to a house that a young person is raised in, controls what that young man, that young woman do outside the house. If they build them strong inside, outside won't faze them. We let society judge us. That I have to wear a pair of designer sneakers and I can't wear a pair of shoes from Walmart. Did that come from a house or that came from society? One of the kids, now this
Unfortunately, sometimes that comes from the house.
Okay, it does.
It does.
Now one of the kids at the school, shoes were too tight. I mean, his toes was at the rubber of the shoes. He had on shoes trimmed in black and pink. Those weren't his shoes. It might have been his sister's shoes. I said, "Hey man, your toes hurt?" He said, "A little bit, Mr. Jeff." We left the school, went to Walmart, got him some shoes. Real quick. Had to do around about a 30-minute turnaround. Took him home. Next time we saw him, he didn't have shoes on his feet. I asked the counselor, "What happened to the shoes that we got him last week?" "Oh, he left them at home, but I'm going to ask his parents." And I don't know the answer. Because I haven't talked to him this week coming up to find out why he didn't wear them and why his parents didn't wear them. Because the counselor said she really didn't want to intimidate him with that question. She's going to ask his parents. Now, if that came from the house, I question that something is wrong. Because if parents allow him to go outside that house as a 9, 10-year-old kid with small shoes on that he's embarrassed about, that when his shoes is wrong, he feel that he's wrong in class, and he's not going to study and do his work right because his feet hurt, and he too ashamed to tell somebody that his feet hurt so he can't concentrate, then we replace the old raggedy shoes that he got on with some good ones, then he can't wear them back, and he back in the same situation again. That's the house. I've had fathers challenge me because I'm talking to his son on his mother's telephone. Who is that man on the phone? He take the phone. He said, "Hello, who is this?" I said, "My name's Jeff White from Young Man Rising." "Why are you calling me on my lady phone?" I said, "I'm not calling you. I'm talking to your son." I say, I didn't even call to talk to your wife. I called to talk to your son, but he don't have a cell phone. So I got the cell phone that I know and called, asked her to talk to him. And if you want to meet me, you can meet me at any time, 11 o'clock, the next school day in the principal office. He hung up the phone. The mother called back and I finished talking to his son. Now I called out a father. His name might be on the birth certificate, but he ain't acting like a daddy, being concerned, saying, hey man, I need to talk to you about my son, man. When can we meet? Then we have those kind of fathers. We done had fathers met us at Golden Corral twice. Sit down and say, hey man, y'all come in here and talk to me about my son, because me and my son gonna be here. I got you when you get here. We're like, no man, we got you. We got those fathers. Superheroes. I call them daddies.